Okay, welcome to the City Council regular session meeting of May, what's the date today? May 16th, 2023. Looks like everything says May 2nd here. Hold on 1 second. That's okay. I think everything's correct other than that. But let me switch it here on this. So 1 second, everyone. Here we go. Back to agenda. Yeah, we'll just go back here, I guess. Yeah. Well, I guess I can just use that too. Come on, get out of there. Come on. Oh, I didn't. All right, well, we're going to go off the script and see how that works. All right, so we are at the regular meeting of the Beaumont City Council for May 16th, 2023. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:33 p.m. Keeping in mind that closed session will be following our meeting today instead of having our closed session in the beginning like usual. Roll call, please.
Councilmember White? Councilmember Voigt?
Here.
Councilmember Laura?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn?
Here.
Mayor Martinez?
Here, please stand for the pledge. Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do we have conflicts of interest disclosure?
Yes, Mayor. I would like to recuse myself from item, hold on, let me get to it, I apologize. It is going to
It should be F1.
be F1. Thank you. F1. Well, I don't feel that there is, and have discussed with council that there is a conflict of interest related to the 5-year CIP. My husband does work for CAL FIRE, and to prevent the appearance of bias related to the fire truck discussion that is on there, I'm going to recuse myself during that one. So I will let legal speak to that as well.
And I'll just state that the council member does not have a conflict under the law. There's a specific exclusion when your spouse works for a governmental agency and they've been employed there for more than a year. And as I mentioned before, the purchase of the fire equipment would be by the city, and it doesn't affect her spouse's salary or compensation or income. So she doesn't have a financial interest in it. But to avoid any appearance of bias or impropriety, she's going to be recusing herself, and for that reason only.
All right, thank you for that. And we will be adjusting the agenda a bit for when it comes to the public hearing. We'll be taking item F1, and then we'll be putting F2 at the end of the meeting. So we'll be doing one public hearing and then going into action items, and then reopening, coming back to public hearing at the end for F2. Or excuse me, for F1.
Mayor, can you confirm which item you're moving?
Yeah, so we're going to do F2, I said that backwards. We're going to do F2 during public hearings. And then F1 will be moving to the end of the meeting. So we're moving F1 to the end of the meeting. Okay, confirm? Sure. All right, we're a little off today. This is definitely not scripted. Okay, so let's continue on. Today we have a National Police Week 2023. A proclamation. Do we have, Chief, do we have anyone coming up to say any words, or would you like me to read the proclamation? Awesome. You bet. All right, so excited. Here we go. This is National Police Week 2023 proclamation. So whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th, 2023 as Peace Officers Memorial Day and May 14th to 20th, 2023 as National Police Week, and whereas the members of the Beaumont Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of all those residing in our visiting Beaumont, and whereas it is important that all residents know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of the police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the Beaumont Police Department unceasingly provide a vital public service. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and the city council of the city of Beaumont call upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 14th through May 20th, 2023 as National Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies and observations in which all of our people may join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered and dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have established for themselves an enviable and endurable reputation for preserving the rights and safety of all residents. I hereby proclaim the 16th day of May, 2023. Congratulations, well deserved. Got a little tear on that one. Yes, please. I was still emotional. Be safe out there. It really is. You do incredible work, really. And I know we say that and you hear that, great job, be safe. But it's really, truly sincere with everything going on, with everything that's even happened here. We always want to make sure that you're safe. And may God be with you.
Mercedes isn't here tonight. Oh, she doesn't?
However you want. Right there. Mhm. All right.
Hey, Nicole, why don't you take the picture? Let's get Chief in here. Come on.
Of course.
Just don't mind
Make me
us.
laugh.
It's okay, they left me one over there.
Congratulations. Thank you. Stay safe out there, please.
Thank you.
Wow. National Police Week. Good job. Okay, that brings us to item C, public comment period. Do we have public comment this evening?
I have no written comments. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, seeing none, that brings us to item D, consent calendar. Do I have any comments on any consent calendar items from public?
Sorry.
Do we have any public comment for consent?
I have no written comments for consent. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, does council wish to pull any specific one? I have one from Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, and not necessarily to pull it, but it's just correcting a typographical error on D5. In the percentages of, in the comments on it, the percentage of, let me find the spot here. Under, I apologize, I should have wrote this down. Correct. It was with
199 of
page 199, first paragraph. Yeah, it should say 50 to 60%, not 505 to 60. So it's a little typo in there. And then just a thank you for staff for putting that together. It was very detailed.
Thank you. Councilmember Lara?
Yeah, can we pull D6, please?
All right, I'll entertain a motion for the remaining.
So, Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve items D1 through D4, also D5 with the change, and then D7 through D10.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Voight,
Yes.
Councilmember Laura,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn,
Yes.
Mayor Martinez.
Yes. Okay, and that brings us to item D6.
Just,
All right, so would you like a report, or would you just have a comment or question?
no, just a couple of questions, if I may, Mayor. Thank you so much. It looks like when you compare this year's fee of $47,890 to last year's fee of $40,493, did the county indicate any reason for the increase?
So that price isn't from the county, that price is from CAL FIRE. So the wildland protection agreement is an agreement that you have with the state, not
Right.
with the county.
Okay,
So, and the price increases, the cost per acre has gone up
right.
this year. The admin fee stayed the same. The cost per acre, last year was $30.82 an acre.
Right.
With a 12.01% admin fee. And the cost per acre, that they figured out this year, the state did, is $36.45 an acre, plus the 12.01% admin fee. And that's what the difference is. And the cost per acre can fluctuate each and every year of the contract. They're one-year contracts.
Does the state go back through and reanalyze or resurvey the wildland area? Because it's consistent with what it was last year, but I thought we had additional development over the last.
So the area that, where the wildland agreement, I think it's 1,173 acres.
Yes, sir.
It's gonna be out the south of the Highland Springs area behind, south of Four Seasons, that hasn't been
Hasn't.
developed. It's the old Lockheed area that the city owns out there.
Okay. Thank you, Chief, very much. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to, I'm not in there. Sorry, can't make the wait a minute. Make the motion to waive the full reading and adopt by title only resolution of the City Council, City of Beaumont, California, approving an agreement with the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection Services from July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024 for fire protection services within the local responsibility areas within the city, and approval of fiscal year 2023-24 agreement with CAL FIRE for fire protection services within the local responsibility areas within the city in the amount of $47,890.93.
I'll second that.
Councilmember Voight,
Yes.
Councilmember Laura,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn,
Yes.
Mayor Martinez.
Yes. All right, thank you for that. That concludes consent items. That brings us to item E, Youth Council Report. So- Welcome. And for the
Okay.
record, just state your name.
Oh, my name is Eva Garcia, part of the Youth Council. For our last meeting on May 9th, we discussed mostly what we wanted to do for the upcoming year for our new Youth Council. So we decided that we're gonna set the applications on this month, the 22nd, all the way until August 28th, and then till then, September 12th will be our first meeting, and on September 19th, we would have the ceremony to introduce to the city council. And from then on, we wanted our goals and objectives for next year, we wanted to engage in different agencies in the city. We also wanted to engage all of our communities together because Beaumont is made up of different communities, such as Sundance and Seneca Springs. We wanted to unite them in a way, since we didn't want all of us to be separated, basically. And we wanted to promote this council on our campus. at school and introduce more youth to Beaumont. And yeah, that is what we mostly had. Thank you.
Do we have any questions or comments from council? So that concluded our last meeting officially of the year. And then, like they said, they'll be doing some summer activities that are voluntary. And they've already discussed some of those that they want to participate in. And then she mentioned the application period, and everyone was excited, and we had some goals for next year. And I'm looking forward to starting off the new year with goals and a good-sized crowd and getting to what you guys really want to do. And they were really adamant on discussing what they wanted to see next year. And because it really was a kind of a building year. It was really getting together, getting all the nuts and bolts ready. And now we can go at it full steam. So I appreciate that. Thank you for coming up here and going in front of the council.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Look great. Thank you. All right, so that moves to F, the public hearings. As mentioned earlier, we are going to move the F1 to the end of the meeting, so we'll proceed with F2. F2 is the formation of the Community Facilities District's CFD number 20023-1 Fairway Canyon. The item is to hold a public hearing and approve by resolution the establishment of CFD number 2023-1, approve a resolution to incur bond indebtedness, adopt a resolution certifying election result, and introduce ordinance authorizing the levy of special taxes. I'd like to open public hearing to take public comments at 6:48 p.m. Do we have public comments this evening?
I have no written comments. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, so to the public and to council, finding that additional time is required because of the complexity of the proposed CFD and due to the need for additional public participation in this process, we would like to continue the public hearing on this matter until June 20th, 2023 at 6 p.m.
Correct.
Good? All right, so we will.
Mayor confirming you opened the public hearing? Yeah.
Yes, it was
Okay,
open,
thank
and I
you.
gave you a time, correct?
Correct.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, so that'll move on to item G. We'll go to action items.
Mayor, if I may interrupt, G1 relates to a budget amendment item that includes the potential for the public hearing on the CIP. And so we would need to move G1 until after that other public hearing.
Okay, so we'll move G1 and continue to G2. So G2 then will be the, to award a public works agreement to Everfence Corporation in an amount not to exceed $204,269 for the police station perimeter fencing capital improvement projects, project number PS-02.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to give the staff report tonight. Mr. Story had to respond to one of our parks for an urgent issue. So this is to award a public works agreement to install the perimeter fencing that City Council had previously approved through the Capital Improvement Program PS-02. In accordance with the Beaumont Municipal Code, a RFP was done. We did have 3 bids respond. The lowest apparent bidder is $204,269 to Everfence Corporation. I do want to include in the report that 1 Community Service Department member and 2 Police Department employees did do a site visit to Everfence Corporation to look at the manufacturing. Because there was such a price difference, we found out that they did comply with the specs as per the RFP. And so we are confident that we can award this bid based on that. It did go to the RFP subcommittee and it was approved by them. And so with that, I am recommending that you approve the Public Works Agreement with Everfence Corp. in the amount of $204,269 and authorize the city manager to approve invoices for contingency in amount up to $20,426 for a total not to exceed $224,695. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. Do we have public comment on G2?
I have no written comments. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
He's back.
He's back.
You get ready. I didn't want to interrupt you. You were on.
That's
I walked
funny.
in right when you said it.
All right, do we have questions from council, or I'll entertain a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make a quick comment before making a motion, just thanking staff for putting that extra effort for the site visit, because it did seem like, I'd be afraid of, without it, you know, did they properly bid on the project? So thanks for that extra effort. So I move that we approve the Public Works Agreement with Everfence Corporation in the amount of $204,269 and authorize the city manager to approve invoices for contingency in an amount up to $20,426 for a total not to exceed $224,695.
I'll second.
Councilmember Boyd?
Yes.
Councilmember Laura?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn?
Yes.
Mayor Martinez?
Yes. That brings us to item G3, that's the drainage at Wellwood Avenue and 11th Street. We have a development of the capital improvement plan project for drainage at Wellwood and 11th Street. We have a staff report. Mr. Hart?
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, so in March of this year, a resident came to City Hall and expressed concerns over a drainage issue at the northeast corner of Wellwood and 11th Street. After that meeting, the staff scheduled a site meeting to meet the resident in the field and to kind of assess their concerns. According to the resident, Wellwood had recently flooded and overtopped the right-of-way and flooded the adjacent properties as well. During the meeting, staff conducted a limited field survey to verify the existing street drainage and observe gutter, driveway, and house elevation relationships. Wellwood itself has what's called an inverted crown, meaning that the center line of the road is lower than the adjacent curb and gutter, so runoff flows in the center of the street, though 11th Street actually has a traditional crown where the center line is higher and actually flows into the adjacent curb and gutter. There's a figure of both 11th Street and Wellwood within your staff report. Excuse me. But obviously, due to these deferring conditions, there was a transition gutter that's shown in one of those photos where you'll see it goes from the center line of the road and jogs over to a more traditional curb and gutter and into kind of a conveyance system. The transition gutter was originally intended to drain just nuisance water and, stormwater runoff from much smaller events. But in larger storm events, the water would pond until the overflow can reach 11th Street. But in bigger events that we've seen recently, the transition gutter is unable to fully dewater that intersection. So the properties along the west boundary of Wellwood, near the corner of 11th, have been susceptible to this ponding. But historically, it's been limited to 10-year or greater storm events. But recent flooding has been exacerbated by heavy rains, as well as the construction of some masonry walls and the lowering of driveways, which increase the water intrusion to these properties and the ability to drain effectively. In addition to that, the house pads are about level with the top of curb, which provides very little protection in the case of a significant rain event. Staff informed the resident that the concern would have to be assessed, and if deemed warranted, that a capital improvement project would ultimately need to be approved by City Council. Ultimately, the resident voiced her concerns at the May 5th City Council meeting. And since that time, there's been some developments. So at a regional level, this issue's been identified in the Riverside County Flood Control Master Drainage Plan. It's called the MDP, Master Drainage Plan. The MDP recommends installation of certain storm drain infrastructure in this area. Namely, it would begin at 12th Street near Edgar, would go westerly on 12th Street, southerly on Wellwood to 8th Street, westerly on 8th Street, and then southerly on Veely underneath the freeway, and ultimately would parallel the UP Railroad and enter into the San Mateo Wash. This would entail the construction of pipe sizing from about 24 to 66 inches in diameter, and the estimated cost for this is $6.5 million. There's a graphic of blow-up of this certain drainage line in your staff report, as well as the overall Beaumont Area Master Drainage Plan in attachment A. So staff has reached out to Riverside County Flood Control to discuss the ability to create a capital improvement project and potential funding for what is known as Line 8. The district's approval for new projects is typically in the month of December, though the ability to request authorization and apply for such funding is nearing, and staff is recommending authorization from council to request a CIP project and funding from Riverside County Flood Control, not only for the design, but for the construction, the ultimate construction of Master Drainage Plan Line 8. Staff has also identified some smaller improvements that will slightly increase the capacity of the transition gutter that we are certainly assessing and looking to hopefully instill here before the next rainfall. And with that, it is recommended that City Council authorize the request of CIP project and funding from Riverside County Flood Control and Water Conservation District for the design and construction of Master Drainage Plan Line 8. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Hart, public comment?
I have no written comments. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, do we have questions from council? Mayor Pro Tem Finn?
Yes, Mr. Hart, so appreciate you bringing this to us, and it's always nice to hear from the public when there's a problem, so we can work on getting it addressed, but did staff, is there any efforts to look outside of that, or any other areas that affect this that need to be done at the same time, or are we just pretty sure that this is just this one, not to say an isolated instance, but that do they need to look beyond the scope of this in the near future to add to the CIP, or is this kind of a one and done fix for a while that we're aware of?
Well, are you talking about the smaller improvements that
Yeah,
we would do on
yeah.
our own? It's, I don't know if it's a one and done. It is certainly an improvement to what the drainage is. It is not what it needs. That's obviously what, it's been identified, obviously, in the master drainage plan. The master drainage plan would clearly, be beneficial to a significant amount of residents and businesses. But given the limitations with no underground infrastructure and the topography of the site, we're somewhat limited on how much we can improve the drainage in that area. So we would certainly maximize that, but there's the ability to fix a greater area to what it needs to be is limited.
So then so it's not to the knowledge of staff that there's any other smaller areas that would add the urgency for the master solution?
I don't recall of any specifically that are immediately within that watershed.
Okay.
I mean, it's certainly in the downtown area is challenging, right? This, the overall development and master planning of drainage was limited probably in the downtown area. So, but this is certainly the one that's kind of been at the forefront for the past few years. And that's kind of evidenced by, there's a drainage structure you'll see that goes along that infrastructure that staff did maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So it's kind of been a known area.
Okay, and then in the past, I've seen some homes, I think it was off of 13th Street, so it might be a little too far away from this, but where the home foundation sat below the crown of the street. Do we have any others in that immediate area or is everything pretty much level or above?
I do not know without, doing a pretty detailed.
But there wasn't
look.
anything that staff saw that they need to investigate further,
No.
I guess is my main question.
No, not at this time, and there are areas where they're either at or either below grade. And so obviously, as the street functions in certain storm events, it can stay within that curb and gutter, but many times what will happen is some of these driveways will get modified, or they've been modified for a while, so you have the capacity of the curb to be able to handle a fair amount of that water, and if you lower your driveway, then obviously that just acts as an inlet right to your property.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Hart, thank you for putting together the detailed report and touching base with the citizens so quickly, and then actually coming back with a proposal to help correct the issue. I appreciate that. Mayor, if there are any other questions, I'm ready to make a motion on that.
Please do.
I'll make a motion to authorize city staff to request a CIP project and funding from RCFC and WCD for the design and construction of MDP Line 8 ASAP on the QT.
I'll second.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the second. Councilmember Voigt,
Yes.
Councilmember Laura,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn,
Yes.
Mayor Martinez.
Yes. All right, thank you. And with that, that brings us to item G4, the award of the contracts for on-call building and safety plan check services. The selection of 4 firms to provide on-call building and safety plan checks. Hello.
I always forget that part. All right, so good evening. We're bringing to you tonight a request to award contracts for on-call building and safety services. The city has utilized online or on-call building services for some time now. And June 30th of this year, we're going to be ending our current 5-year contract with our remaining 2 firms that we utilize. We started off with 3. These services include backfilling for staff vacancies on an as-needed basis, for on-site inspector assignments when requested by developers, and on and off-site plan review services. These expenses are associated with on-site inspection and plan review services are not expended until we've received payment for those services, either through cash deposits or plan review fees collected in accordance with the city's adopted fee study. Therefore, tonight we're asking the council to award a professional service agreement to 4Leaf Inc., Bureau Veritas, Scott Fazekas and Associates, and Wildan for on-call building and safety services in an annual amount not to exceed the fiscal year's council-approved budget for plan check and inspection services in the Building and Safety Department for the year of the contract.
Okay, thank you. Do we have public comments on this item?
I have no written comments. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
All right, plan check is right up your alley. Laura,
I'll try to keep it short, Mayor. Thank you. Real quick, of the 4 vendors, how many of those will provide actual or have the ability or capability of providing in-house plan check?
The 3 of the 4 do,
Okay,
as a normal practice of what they're providing.
okay. And hopefully we could get more room to maybe utilize that option at some point. And then I know with the inspector demand right now, it's difficult to get experienced inspectors. So what process do you have to ensure that we get good quality inspectors?
Well, currently, fortunately, we have a inspector that lives in the area that only works for Beaumont when we need them. You know, he's retired, but he still likes to stay active. So currently, we're utilizing that individual for the most part to backfill the vacancies if one of our inspectors is out on vacation or calls in sick or something like that. Generally, the longer term assignments are when one of the developers asks for a full-time or part-time inspector to be on site permanently. And when that happens, we reach out to the consultants. They provide me resumes, or they'll, talk to me about their experience, where they've been. And then when they do get on site, we spend a lot of time the first week with one of our city inspectors on site with them. And then we'll drop in on them.
Okay.
The
Excellent.
next, not the next week, but continually while they're there, just to make sure everything's still going the way Beaumont expects them to be performing inspections. And
Excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mayor, if there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and make a motion unless somebody else.
We do public comment? We did, huh? All right, please.
We're good? I'll make a motion to award professional services agreement to 4Leaf Inc., Buena Veritas, Scott Fazekas and Associates Incorporated, and Wildan for on-call building and safety services, and in an annual amount not to exceed, do we want to include plan check or just building and safety services? Right, okay, I'm sorry. In an annual amount not to exceed fiscal year's council-approved budget for plan check and inspection fees in the building and safety budget for the year of the contract.
I'll second that.
Councilmember Voigt,
Yes.
Councilmember Laura,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn,
Yes.
Mayor Martinez.
Yes. All right, thank you. With that, it takes us to G5, award of contracts for on-call planning and environmental services, selection of 6 consulting firms. Hello there, Carol. Staff report. Ms. Hendrick.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Carol Kendrick, Planning Staff, presenting a recommendation for an award of contracts for on-call planning and environmental services. On February 16th, the city released an RFP for the planning and environmental services that included preparation of CEQA and NEPA documents, peer review of CEQA documents submitted by applicants, and extension of staff as needed. On May 2nd, the city received 24 proposals, and the RFP was accessed by 195 firms. A panel of 4 city staff members reviewed and rated the proposals consistent with Chapter 3.02 of the Beaumont Municipal Code. An initial review was performed on all the proposals, and staff determined 4 firms for possible consideration. Upon further review, the panel selected 8 firms to invite for oral interviews, which occurred between April 21st and May 3rd. The oral interviews consisted of evaluations based on understanding of the scope of services, demonstrated professional skills and credentials, related experience, their approach, their familiarity with the city, county, and state procedures, references, the quality of their proposal, and costs. So based on the original proposal and the oral interviews, the panel selected the following firms for consideration: Kimley Horn, Placeworks, Somas, MIG, the Altum Group, and Chambers. These recommendations were presented to the RFP committee on May 11th, and they concurred with staff. Planning currently has 2 consultants that provide on-call planning services, which include Placeworks, which primarily does all our environmental impact peer reviews, and then they also provide extensive technical support to staff. And then Chambers Group is the other provider, and they primarily review our mitigated negative declarations, and they have prepared some CEQA documents for capital improvement projects. Staff is requesting the 6 firms to allow to further enhance customer service based on cost and timing. The cost of the contracts related to the peer review are paid by the project applicant, plus a 20% administration fee that the city collects to manage the contract. Extension of staff, if needed, will also be a pass-through fee paid by the applicant for deposit-based applications. The recommended firms demonstrated the most efficient approach, responsiveness, and availability, and they are able to provide quality planning services with competitive pricing. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you for that. Do we have public comment for G5?
I have no written comments. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Great, thank you for that. Questions or comments from council? Or entertain a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the on-call services contract with Kimley Horn, Placeworks, Somas, MIG, the Altum Group, and Chambers Group, Inc.
I'll second.
Councilmember Voigt,
Yes.
Councilmember Laura,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn,
Yes.
Mayor Martinez.
Yes. All right, thank you for that. Brings us to G6, the award of professional service agreement to TransTech Engineers, Inc. for on-call capital improvement program project management services. Staff report from Mr. Hart.
Yeah, good evening again, Mayor. One more on-call contract for you. So the city's capital improvement program is, as you're well aware, rapidly growing and vital to ensuring that the needs of the community are met, as well as allow for sustainable growth and implementing goals and priorities of the strategic plan. To assist in meeting these needs, a request for proposal for on-call CIP project managers services was prepared. It's shown in your agenda packet as attachment A. Highlights of the scope entailed the overall program management, the programming and project controls, project development management, on-call services, and construction management. This RFP was advertised in March, and 6 proposals were received on April 20th. These proposals were then evaluated by a panel and ranked and scored according to understanding of the scope services, project manager qualifications, firm qualifications, and firm resources. Following the evaluations, interviews were conducted with the top 3 candidates, and the top candidates and staff's recommendation, top candidate is probably what this should say, top candidate and staff's recommendation were then presented to the RFP subcommittee, who concurred with staff's recommendation. The recommendation is that TransTech provide on-call CIP project management services to the city. TransTech demonstrated the most efficient approach, responsiveness, and ability to provide quality management services, project management services to the city, as well as the capacity to do so. The importance of facilitating the city's current funded CIP of over $250 million, 5-year CIP of nearly $250 million, and the priorities identified in the strategic plan were stressed. To assist in delivering city's objectives, staff is recommending TransTech to meet the current pending and future project needs. I should mention as well that engaging TransTech will help facilitate the delivery of 5 priority level 1 strategic goals, 3 priority level 2 goals, and 2 priority level 3 goals, in addition to CIPs not identified in the strategic plan. And with that, it's recommended that council award a professional services agreement to TransTech engineers for CIP program management services in an amount not to exceed $500,000. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that. Public comment?
I have no written comments. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, brings us to council comments, questions, or a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I just have a quick question for staff in reference to posting the agenda, and when we have the priority, our strategic plan objectives. Is it possible with this online PDF to have where we mention these objectives, to have quick links to them? So then the public can quickly see and understand what this services goes towards. Because nobody's going to remember, and I don't even remember, priority level 1, target 2, goals 1 through 5. I know we approved it, and but if it's an easy way to go back and look through it or click on it when an agenda comes out to maybe, and it just points to it's a link in the PDF that points to the website on what those items are. If that's something like that we could do in the future, or even include that in the consent calendar when that comes through or something.
Is that something we can do through the
Is it
software?
a possibility?
We can add it as an attachment
Okay.
each time it references, and then that'll be an attachment to the staff report.
That'd be
So
sufficient then. Okay.
the summary of the strategic planning goals that we presented during the budget workshop, I believe is what Nicole's talking about. So it was.
So if that summary was added each time that we reference to
We'd have to add
that,
it as an attachment each time.
that'd be great, because then somebody can then just easily follow, so.
We can put a board up here
Yeah.
too.
With a map and a flow chart. All right, that's all I had, thank you.
Like to make a motion at the same time?
Sure. I move that we award a professional services agreement to TransTech Engineers, Inc. for on-call CIP program management services in the amount not to exceed $500,000.
I'll second.
Councilmember Voight,
Yes.
Councilmember Laura,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn,
Yes.
Mayor Martinez.
Yes. And with that, that brings us to item G7. That will be the administrative draft of the objective design standards. Presentation of the administrative draft of the objective design standards to obtain feedback and direction from council. Staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Planning staff is requesting feedback and direction from the City Council for future consideration. In the fall of 2021, the preparation of the draft objective design standards began during the preparation of the 6th cycle housing element. Due to the anticipated changes to the objective design standards related to the housing element, the process was halted until the housing element was certified by the state, which occurred on December 12th of 2022. Program 19 of the 6th cycle housing element identifies the planning department shall facilitate the adoption of the objective design standards for residential and mixed-use projects in order to expedite the approval process for such projects and support the city in meeting its housing goals. The administrative draft utilized existing development, specific plans, images and observations of existing conditions in the built environment, and the WRCOG draft objective design standards toolkit and best practices. The changes that are proposed are in the residential single family, the residential traditional neighborhood, the downtown mixed use, the 6th Street mixed use, and 6th Street mixed use residential zones. The recommended standards include facade articulation, compatibility with the accent buildings, entries, materials, and parking design and access. No changes are proposed to the basic development standards, including density, setbacks, height, lot coverage, parking ratios, etc. And they do not include standards for architectural style, window placement or design, privacy, roof design, and building colors. The administrative draft complies with the requirements in applicable law, including SB 35 and SB 330. A work study was conducted with the Planning Commission on May 10th, and the Planning Commission went through the objective design standards page by page and had several comments. So I'm just going to briefly go over those, but I can touch on them more if you'd like. In the residential single-family section, they wanted more flexibility in design, especially regarding blank walls on garages. So that was, that is on page 4 of the design guidelines. It's H1B. H1D2, and in the RTN I2F2, they were requesting that we strike must incorporate a visible pattern of exterior or bracket beams. And one of the commissioners had indicated that some of these brackets or exposed beams need to be enclosed when they're in a high fire severity zone. On H5A and I3A, both in the residential single family and the residential traditional neighborhood. This is regarding window design. They requested that we add language or as approved by the community development director. H7D2, it indicated that all carports must be solar ready, and they had requested that it's a recommendation but not a requirement. In the residential traditional neighborhood, I2E2, they were asking what the feasibility of the floor to window ceilings were. This is on multi-story units that are adjacent to a single family residence. Also in the residential traditional neighborhood, they asked for clarification on the term transparency and door yards, so we do have those definitions now. Also in the residential traditional neighborhood and downtown mixed use, they wanted to clarify that bike parking would only apply to multifamily residential projects. There was a clarification requested in the downtown mixed use on C2A. It talks about the maximum height of a non-residential first floor, and it has it at 11 feet. So they were asking what the standard was. And then they had concerns with the next item B, because it only allows you 2 feet differential from an adjacent building, but it's talking about the ceiling. So I think that maybe it should be the roof. But they wanted some clarification on that. And to add in language or as approved by the community development director. In the downtown mixed use C3, it talks about having 50% of the frontage with wall openings, and they asked for options for a project to reduce that 50%. So that might be something where we look at, as approved by the community development director. In the downtown mixed use C3D, they suggested murals. So that section talks about blank walls. So they suggested maybe murals be added to that. C4B is regarding separation of entrances between residential and commercial units, and they wanted it to list not live-work units were approved by the community development director. C11FI, they wanted language added, or is approved by the community development director, public works director, and public safety. And this is regarding the number of curb cuts. And then lastly, in this 6th Street mixed use and 6th Street mixed use residential, they wanted references back to the standards. A formal ordinance amendment will be presented at a later date to the Planning Commission and City Council. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Comment at this time?
I have no written comments. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
All right, thank you. Well, usually I'd like the comments written so I can follow along, but there were quite a few, so I understand why you didn't have those
If
ready.
council would like, we can pull up the document on the screens if you need to look at something specific for discussion purposes.
Okay, let me see if I have that. I kind of took notes, so I think I might have enough. Yeah, it was a little hard keeping them. You meant well. Let's start off with Mr. Lar, because he usually answers all our questions.
I don't know if I'll be able to do that this time. I do like the start and where we're heading. One of my goals, and again, it's just one of 5, but is really to push architectural standards so that we have buildings that represent the city and are nice, clean. One of the things I was kind of confused about, and I've got my notes in here, Carol, and I'll just give you the binder, and I won't go through all my notes, so spare you the pain. But when it starts out, like on section 1, it starts out with, you're looking at the different building elevations, and it goes around to the side elevation where you've got basically a flat elevation that, separates windows by 20 foot. But then you get deeper into it, and then it goes into a 360 look. So it seems like the first part, at least in my opinion, contradicts the second part. So if you're gonna do a 360, you're gonna have more, offsets and architectural features. And so seems like the beginning kind of contradicts the end. Is that make sense?
Correct, and we do have requirements in here for 4 planes on the front elevation and then 2 planes for
And I
the
like
side
that.
and rear. So this exhibit that in H1B on page 4, that will not need to be updated to reflect what it's actually requiring.
Okay, thank you. And then just the last comment, like I said, I'll give you my book with my notes, is I don't see how a change in paint color is gonna beat an architectural feature. It's like, if you have a big wall, we'll just change the color on half of it. And then 5 years later, they paint over it, and now it's all one big giant wall, the same colors. So I'd rather see architectural features outlined or offsets, or more so than, I'd like to eliminate the paint color. And like I say, and I'll be happy to go over any of these with you via phone call, or you just take them and let me know if you have questions.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Lara. What do we have from council? Anything from council? If not, basically, so what I'd like to see is, so right now the plan is to incorporate the comments from council and from planning commission, and then bring it back so we can see how it's been adjusted and then look at it. Okay, so, I mean, you'd mentioned something about, is this not the appropriate place where we talked about minimum width on streets for new building?
No, that's not in here, but
Okay,
that's a great
Is that a
question.
different thing? Okay, I just wanted to make sure I got that right. So,
Front setbacks are referenced.
yeah, I saw the setbacks.
Which I think are small, but
Well, I mean, I think it gives it a lot of flexibility still. I know that the planning commission had mentioned some areas they wanted a little bit more. But I think it's a pretty good balance of what we're requesting, and a lot better than what we had for sure. It's a lot bit more guidance and direction, example, and it's more clearly thought out. I can't see anything right now at the moment that's glaring for me. So, I'm okay with it as it is, to see what it looks like after the commission has put in their comments and it's been adjusted.
When staff brings this back, Mayor, we will provide a red line of the document to both planning commission and council, so each of the bodies can see what each other recommended, and then the changes that staff work with the consultant on to make, and then prepare more of a typical slideshow presentation like you used to seeing from planning when we bring something like this forward.
And I'm assuming it's probably really not practical to have what we have now compared to what we've written?
We don't have anything now.
Yeah,
So-
because everything was not,
Yeah, this is the first in what will likely be several steps that we take to develop citywide design guidelines. So the city right now has no codified design standards whatsoever. The only thing we have right now in the general plan, is part of the downtown area plan. And it's at a high level, sort of sets the overall theme or feel for what we would like to see, but there's nothing that's really codified. What we have are development standards, and those set height, setback, parking requirements, landscape requirements, and things like that. So nothing that really speaks to the aesthetics that staff works with. So this is, as planning manager mentioned, this is the first step in many. This will satisfy what the state would like to see us do, as far as having some general standards in place that are objectively applied across the board to residential developments that come in, that would not be perceived as overbearing or financially burdensome to maybe discourage housing development, right? Because we all know where the state is at with this, right? But we have released a request for proposal for the zoning code update, which council funded for us this fiscal year. And as part of the zoning code update, we did put in that RFP a request to develop citywide design guidelines. So we will have not just this, but we'll build on the residential, and then we will also be bringing to you guys commercial and industrial standards as well, because right now we don't have anything at all in place.
and you said somewhere that you're following best practices. What are we modeling this from?
It's based off the WR-COG draft toolkit for objective design standards and their toolkit, so
Oh, that's
it's,
what it is.
it's document put out by them.
Okay, well, it's pretty early on, so, I mean, I don't have too much right now. Anyone have anything specific, Councilmember Voigt?
Sure, thanks you, Mayor. I just wanted, the only notes I had on this was just to clarify the solar-ready carport, so I appreciate that they caught that as well. And then I appreciated the continuous walkways from the side gates to the garage to the front door, because I know that I have seen that where that's not, and so I appreciate that. And I think that there was some discussion around multi-dwellings and open space, and so I kind of appreciate the attention to that as well.
Go ahead.
I just
Mayor
had a
Pro Tem.
simple one on page 8, where it's showing 3-car garages with a single car space. So then if this was adopted, the smaller single car would extend out at a minimum of 2 feet in front of the other one. So no flush. So even if it was a 2-story, then it would still protrude out at least 2 feet, correct? So no more flush ones?
Yeah, that has to do with the 20-foot plane, is that what we're talking about? No more than
Yeah.
20 continuous feet without a articulation. right?
Okay, that covers it. Okay, all right, gotcha. Okay, thank you. And then, so this would come back then with red lines from the commission, so then we could see it again, and then if we had any other changes outside of what we're talking tonight, and would we review this again and then come back a third time, or?
So that would be up to council's discretion. What we'll do after tonight is we'll take the feedback that you all have provided in Councilmember Lara's notes, and we'll prepare a red line that includes planning commission's comments and council's comments, and then we'll work with the consultant who helped prepare this and show how we remedied or what we've changed to incorporate. So you'll be able to see the process through, if that makes sense. And then we'll present it again at Planning Commission with the intent of coming to council for adoption, at which time we could do one public hearing or we could do 2, depending on how you wanted. We could present it, take the feedback, make last changes, and bring it back again for final adoption.
Okay, I like that, because I had a chance to watch parts of the planning commission meeting, and I got lost in the weeds.
Yeah, we went page by page at Planning Commission up on the screen, so.
And jumping in and out of that meeting, I'm like, okay, they're in good hands, I'll just leave it alone. But to have it come back, it's kind of hard to know what we need to add without saying, kind of line by line what they dissected, because I don't want to reinvent the wheel, what they've done, and, or be here all night either.
This
So-
is also something that if council chose, could be previewed at the land use subcommittee as well, because it is a land use, it would have effect on land use. So, I'll defer to council and the city manager on, if that's a direction we'd like to go in, when you would like to request that, if that's the case.
Okay.
And as far as our landscaping code, our landscaping requirements, is that a part of this as well, or is that separate?
Yeah, it would be separate. It would be part of the zoning code update. That would be one of the sections. All of chapter 17 will be looked at, as well as some sections that have an effect on zoning, such as your dark sky ordinance and some nuisance type stuff, special events, those kind of things will also be looked at in that. But this is specific to just the structures themselves, the residential structures.
Okay. Is there, Laura, more comments?
Yeah, just really quickly, you know, going through this, I think one of the things, as you had touched on, it's gonna take training across several, it'll be plan check, building inspectors, because some of the items are not just strictly planning enforcement, it's gonna be plan check enforcement, which means our contract plan checkers are gonna need to be aware of that as well, so it's a rather detailed task.
Okay. Is that enough direction?
We good?
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I'll see more. Okay, with that, that brings us to G8. That's the authorization for payment of invoice from the County of Riverside Registrar of Voters. Staff report, Ms. Wheelwright.
Good evening, council. Before you is, attachment A is an invoice from the County of Riverside Register of Voters for the most recent municipal election. This item is contingent upon the approval of the budget item that you'll have later on in the evening. The budgeted amount for the election was anticipated to be less than what we received an invoice for. So we're bringing this forward with a budget amendment to be able to cover the full costs. The invoice is attached, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we have public comment on this?
I have no written comments. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, quick question for me. So the original estimate was lower than this, and this was a higher invoice that came in?
We do not receive estimates from
Oh, they
Register
don't.
of Voters. We just use the cost based on previous years. So because our elections are every 2 years, we use the 2020
Oh, okay.
election. And so the price in conducting the election has almost doubled.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you. So I have a question on the candidate statement cost breakdowns. It's to my knowledge that if a candidate wants to have a candidate statement, that they have a fee that they pay with the county. Does then the county also then charge the city for each candidate that does put in a candidate statement, and then that cost is then, the full cost is covered between the city and the individual?
The amount that is paid by the candidate is paid to the city as a deposit. We then turn around and we allocate those monies to this invoice.
Gotcha.
There is a difference. You'll see here the estimated deposit that the Register of Voters asked us to collect from each candidate was $700. There is a difference here, so refund checks are going out to each candidate.
And then the difference in between is literally probably the number of characters used in that. Is it that to level of detail?
Some sort of, yes.
All right. Okay. All right, thank you. I just couldn't remember what the process was. Okay. And then going forward, what do we have any recommendations how we're going to estimate what the next election is going to be? I don't think we need to double it again, but to at least account for something above what we're paying here.
I can try requesting an estimate. I believe they use a calculation based on population. So their cost of election per resident has gone up from the previous, so we can ask for an
Okay.
estimate ahead of time.
And in that, do you think that they would be able to give a reason? Could it be due to the fact of the by mail ballots, and then so there was more things that went out, so the county incurred a larger cost, and then that was divided amongst all the residents?
I can ask for
Okay,
for.
that'd be nice, that'd be nice to know. I mean, I don't think we're gonna change how they're gonna bill us. But if it's tied to the fact of how elections are now conducted, then maybe it's just, we're gonna expect that higher amount from here on out. Because I don't think they're gonna change the vote by mail way they're doing things. So, okay, thank you.
Did you just say that you're asking the county to explain their invoice? Is that what I just heard? Okay, I just wanted to make sure I heard that right. Okay, all right, well, I think dreams come true sometimes, but, all right, any other comments from council? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize payment of $113,094.71 to the County of Riverside Registrar of Voters for election services rendered in 2022.
I'll second that.
Councilmember Voigt,
Yes.
Councilmember Laura,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn,
Yes.
Mayor Martinez.
Yes. Brings us to item G9, the approval of the city attorney invoices for the month of April 2023.
Because this matter involves my law firm, I'm going to recuse myself.
Do we have any public comments?
I have no written comments. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay, with that, any questions from council, or I'll entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the payment, approve the invoices in the amount of $118,914.31.
I'll second.
Councilmember Voigt,
Yes.
Councilmember Laura,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn,
Yes.
Mayor Martinez.
Yes, okay, so that brings us back to some items that we put towards the end, and we're here at the end. And I don't believe we'll be visited by Mr. White, so we will continue to talk about what we had previously talked about. So, let's come back to this
Okay.
item,
I will recuse myself,
All right,
as
and-
previously stated.
and that's on item F1, correct?
Correct. Item F1, that is correct.
Okay,
What will be F1 and also G1.
G1.
okay. Okay, so that brings us to item F1. We are in public hearings now. This is the public hearing and consideration for the Fourth Amendment of the city's fiscal year 22-23 through fiscal year 26-27 capital improvement plan to approve the resolution to amend the five-year plan. Staff report, Ms. Gibbs?
Thank you, Mayor. So you have previously seen the capital improvement plan during the budget adoption for fiscal year 22-23. And since that time, we have brought forth 3 separate amendments amending the plan, including November 1st, where several purchases, renovations, playground rehabs, and transportation infrastructure projects were amended or created. And then again on February 21st, another amendment was brought forth with further additional projects, either modifications, increases, or creation of some of those projects. And then the third one was most recently April 18th, where we looked at the citywide traffic signal upgrade and the Pennsylvania Avenue widening. The Pennsylvania Avenue widening project was under construction and we needed to program some more money. So this is the fourth amendment. This amendment is specifically to amend the CIP for the fire truck purchase. The project amended, potentially is amended to include additional funding allocated from your unrestricted fund balance. And as we mentioned in the workshop at the May 2nd, 2023 City Council meeting, direction was given for us to bring this back for consideration, discussion, and potential approval. The additional $690,000 has not been included in the budget, and as I mentioned, we've identified additional funding should council decide to amend the capital improvement plan, and that is through the fund balance, as I mentioned. So the recommended action is to conduct a public hearing, waive the full reading, and adopt by title only a resolution of the City Council of the City of Beaumont amending the 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal year 22-23 through 2027, or deny adoption of the proposed resolution and not increase funding in the CIP project number PS05, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So I have a point of clarification. So if it's approved, the purchase of a vehicle is not automatic. That's a separate issue that has to come back. Is that correct? We're just approving the money to put in that area for that, but we still have to come back and approve that vehicle, I suppose. Is that correct?
So
Or is it tied together?
It depends on how City Council gives direction. So the first item is to either approve or deny the increase in funding of $690,000 from your unrestricted fund balance. And then, at that point, I would need direction on whether or not the city wants to issue a purchase order or send a letter to the county as we did before.
Okay, thank you. All right.
And Mr. Mayor, I have a question in terms of a quorum, and this is for council. So I understand we need a majority, but we have 3 members here. So does the majority mean it's 2 votes to 1, or do we need all 3 because it's still the majority of the council?
So under Government Code Section 36936, because this would involve approval of a resolution, it requires a majority of the legislative body, which is 3 members, to approve it.
Okay, thank you.
If the vote is short of that, it fails.
Okay, so let's go with comments. Councilmember Lar.
So, you brought up, I'm sorry, Mayor, you brought up a question that it's got me thinking. If we approve the allocation of the funds, then it's brought back to council to cut the check for a specific truck?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
So if we approve the funds tonight, they get set aside for that, a fire truck.
Correct.
If council wishes more information on, say, 2 fire trucks, and one of them is less money, that allocated money, just hypothetically, but that any additional funds, could those be moved, since they're already set aside? Could they be moved and used for the purchase of another vehicle?
The capital improvement project is specifically for, let me go back here. It's specifically for fire truck purchase.
Okay.
And so if council, if I understand your question correctly, if council chooses to divide that up between 2 trucks, that would be covered under fire truck purchase.
Well, it's what I think he's asking, it's not for a specific truck, it's for a truck, but not a specific truck.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Comments, questions? I don't know what we did. Let's see what we did. We just went right.
Mayor,
into
yeah,
this
we
while
had,
it was all.
yeah,
thing.
Mayor, we
All right.
had clarifying questions.
No.
We haven't had any.
Yeah, let's do
public
that
comment
first.
yet.
So we need to open public comment. The public hearing is at 7:46 PM. So let's ask for public discussion first. So do we have,
I have no written comments. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
okay, thank you with that. I have a question for Chief Hopkins. I just, the caller made some comments that didn't want to know if you have any clue on. Does the county work on any electric fire trucks?
No.
Okay, have you heard of any electric fire trucks being used in very close surrounding agencies?
The only one that I'm aware of is the one that LA City has. I believe it's their engine that's on Skid Row.
Okay, and have you ever saw anything come by your desk, anything about electric fire trucks as far as cost or anything like that?
No.
And I was gonna ask Mr. Beck before he left, and I forgot.
I was informed last week by Rancho Cucamonga Fire District that they have an electric fire truck on order through Rosenbauer.
Any numbers? No? All right, that's all. I was just curious, because they made that comment, so I wanted to make sure I did diligent and let's see if it's something that we've been working on. I don't even know if, our techs would be qualified. I don't know, that's another question, another story. Okay, so with that then, we were presented quite a bit of discussion during our workshop, and we had quite a bit of input from council, and I appreciate all input from all council members. And it was a robust discussion. I heard some stuff that got me thinking different ways and so forth, and I think everybody got a little different take out of it. But it still comes back to the point that we've got a truck to purchase for that station. So we ask ourselves, at this point, do we have enough information to purchase the truck we want? Do we need more information on other trucks or more about the trucks that we're considering? Or, the things that we brought up, even the plan that I had talked about and so forth. I don't want to turn it into a stall technique because it almost looks that way. But it's important. I mean, we have our opinions and we're entitled to those, and we're being diligent of the taxpayer money and safety as well. But I think we need to go ahead and put forth where our intentions are, because our vote will decide on our course. So before us, we have a resolution, we have a approval of the resolution to amend, and the amount there is specifically
$2,490,000.
That's the total, the amendment is 690,000.
690, so
Okay.
that's what we're
Okay.
looking at.
Okay.
690.
For the
and
change.
that
Okay.
is, I believe, 459 plus a contingency.
Contingency of 226.
So we're in 690. So again, if we go ahead and make a motion to approve the amendment to that CIP, then that will put money into the fund for a fire truck. And then there'll be a second discussion on whether we are ready to vote for a certain fire truck. Does that sound appropriate, or direction, I should say?
Yes, so the amendment includes adoption of the resolution.
Right, which is moving money into the fund for the purchase of a fire truck, correct?
Correct.
Right, and remember, we can add more if the amendment needs to be, we can, whatever we need to do, but, depending on our discussion. All right, so, I'm gonna go ahead and make that motion. I'm gonna move that we approve the resolution to amend the 5-year, fiscal year 23 through 27 capital improvement plan. And is that the correct motion? I hope.
Mayor, before we do a second, could we close the public hearing?
Oh, I did leave it open, okay, so no public comment, 7:50 PM, we'll close the public hearing. And I've made the motion
Before-
to approve.
Sorry.
Question?
You know what, Mayor, you're bringing up some really valid points, so before you finish that motion.
Sure, I had no
I'm-
second, so I'm okay. Go
I'm
ahead.
just wondering if it'd be possible to, if we make the motion, direct staff to bring back an option for the rear mount ladder truck and the TDA, and maybe compare those two with the equipment, the difference in equipment, because I'd like to see that. And more specifically, that the difference in equipment that would serve the residents of Beaumont. What would we get that we don't have, that we actually need on calls within the city limits?
And would you like to see a specific letter like we have currently that gives us a price good till a certain date?
For both, if we
For
could.
both? Is
Is
that
that-
something we can do?
Yeah.
Okay, so, so first of all, we have the motion to put money into the CIP for a fire truck of that amount. So just to clarify again, because I still have no second, the pre-programmed 1.4, I believe, plus this additional 690 is still in the CIP for a fire truck?
It-
'Cause we
The
haven't-
original budgeted amount last June during the budget adoption was 1.4.
Right,
It was increased by 400,000,
Right.
general fund money. And then tonight is the recommendation to approve or deny the 690 additional funding from fund balance.
and that full amount will be sitting in a CIP account for a
Correct.
fire truck, and then what we
Correct.
go from there is where we go from there.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a second.
And I just want to clarify your motion, you're waiving the full reading of the.
Oh, yes. I don't have it on this one here.
Like me to make it, Mayor?
No, I made it, but it wasn't on the script that way.
Okay.
Maybe I read it wrong. Let me see. It says, here it is. No, I read it wrong. All right, so here's my motion that you seconded to make sure this is what you want to second. Waive the full reading and adopt by title only a resolution of the City Council of the City of Beaumont amending the 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal years 22, 23 through 27.
I'll second.
Okay. Did you have comment? Or-
No, sir.
Okay.
I was just
So-
waiting for that to be.
Ready for that? Okay. Roll call. please.
Councilmember Loa,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn,
Yes.
Mayor Martinez.
Yes. Okay, so with that, then we need direction for staff on whether we're approving the unit that we discussed, which is the 105-foot TDA, is that correct? And my notes are everywhere. Yeah, okay, so the original, just a couple before we take a motion, the original idea was that I was in support, Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem was in support. You had some questions you wanted still answered. So I'm okay with giving direction to having them come back, staff come back with what you requested, which was a letter that has numbers, not just a general amount, but an actual number from the company for those unit. What unit are you looking for?
It's the 105-foot rear mount.
Okay, so if I remember, with the equipment that he asked and the comparison, and I think Chief Hopkins pretty much had some of that prepared tonight, so it won't be too difficult to bring that
Yeah,
back to
and
us.
I want to make sure that that equipment is specific to calls that have occurred within the city of Beaumont.
Okay, and I'm sure we'll be able to explain that when we have that point.
And so I have the same clarifying question to council. So now that we've approved the CIP budget, and now we're a specific item, does that still take the majority of the council? Or the majority of the present, of who is present this evening?
So have we moved on to G1 or are we still on the CIP?
We are not, we're still on
Okay, so
F1.
now we're giving direction. We're giving
That's true.
direction to staff, as I understand it. It is not approval of a resolution, and therefore it only requires a majority of the quorum.
Just for, okay,
If it's a
for direction.
resolution, ordinance, order for payment of money, it requires a majority of the legislative body, which is 3 votes. If it's just giving direction to staff, then it would require a majority of the quorum, which
And-
would be 2 votes.
And in G1, we're not, the fire truck's not in that, right?
Yes.
Oh, it is? Okay.
G1 does include the budget amendment. We have to move the money into the capital improvement program.
But it's still for a truck, not a specific.
Correct, okay. Because what I don't want to do is alienate Mr. White with his comments and so forth, but just, you know, anyway, just clarification, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm okay with what has been discussed.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so for clarification, I'm going to bring back an item with basically a quote for a 105-foot rear mount. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Does council want to see any other information?
The difference in equipment that each truck can carry,
Okay.
that would be needed. I just kind of want clarification to make sure that that equipment has been used or would need to be used on calls from the past, that we've got a very detailed history of the calls from the annual review of 2022 from the fire department. And I just want to see which equipment would have been used on those calls. Does that make sense? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So with that, the handouts that council has in front of us, we had the breakdown of the TDA truck, and the rear mounted. Can we have, and this was not in the agenda packet, correct? It's in the workshop, okay, so
Correct.
it was for the workshop, so, this is a very useful tool and it's very descriptive, and pictures, in my opinion, say 1,000 words. Can we have what was provided here in the agenda packet for
Sure.
when we go to discuss that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any comments from council? And staff has direction. Okay, so let's see, we voted and I closed the public hearing, so that moves us to G1, action item, the fiscal year 22-23, number 6 budget amendment.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. What I have for you this evening is a proposed budget amendment to the current fiscal year 22-23 budget. As you've heard this evening, some things have to change and there's new circumstances, new information. So amendments are needed to keep spending authority within your funds. And so what we have for you this evening is some budget amendments to the general fund, self-insurance fund, other special revenue fund, and your capital projects fund. I'd like to let you know within the general fund, you have some department adjustments that are being made to keep departments within their spending authority. And then there was staff identified revenue that could offset these budget amendments. And that is also including the discussed item with the fire truck for the $690,000. With that, I'm available for any questions that you have on any of these items that are listed within your staff report. And they are also a part of your attachment A, which is the actual adjustments that will be done within the financial system.
Thank you for that. Comments, public, G1?
I have no written comments. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Okay. With that, oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, we're still recused. Questions or comments or motion? Let me see, I get the right motion this time. Oh, there it is.
I can get it, Mr. Mayor.
You got it?
So I move that we approve fiscal year 2022 to 2023 budget amendments as outlined in attachment A.
I'll second.
Councilmember Laura,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn,
Yes.
Mayor Martinez.
Yes. Okay, so we'll have Ms. Councilmember Voigt joining us back. And we'll go to H, legislative updates, as soon as she returns. Welcome back. Right, so item H, Ms. Taylor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we are nearing the end of the time period for bills to be introduced for this legislative session. June 2nd is the last day for each house to pass bills that were introduced in their respective house. July 14th then starts a summer recess, which will go into about August 14th. The legislature will come back in and they will have another month to process and vote and get done with the bills that have made it past the deadline for June 2nd. And then September 14th, all action is done, and then the governor has 30 days to either sign into law or veto anything that has been introduced and passed through and made it onto his desk. So, of course, we're monitoring a number of bills. There have been several of the bills related to housing and zoning, general plan, all of those types of things that we monitor regularly that have been placed into suspense files and have turned into two-year bills, which means they won't be able to be acted on again until January 2024. But I did want to highlight a couple public safety bills that we were watching. So SB 719 had to do with the public access to the CLET system, and the bill was recommending or was proposing that the public be able to access in real time the same system, basically radio system that public safety uses. That bill has been placed into suspense and will not proceed any further, which is a good thing. And then AB 742, the Jackson bill regarding canines, that has previously been referred to suspense. However, there is an appropriations committee set for May 18th. So we'll know this week whether or not that bill is going to make it through onto its next committee or for a vote on the floor, or if it's going to be referred to the suspense file. So we're keeping an eye on that one very closely this week. Like I said, there have been a number of other bills that have been either put to bed for this session or are still hanging on. The AB 1748, the warehouse bill that Ramos has proposed, which pertains specifically to Riverside and San Bernardino counties, that is still moving, and so we'll be monitoring that bill this week. That was the one that we've drafted the letter for opposition based on the local control aspect of things. And then one of the other bills that is still, one of the bills that is in suspense now that also died is the one that has to do with not allowing semi-trucks to drive through disadvantaged communities, or any area that has a disadvantaged community. And that bill did die for this part of the session, so it is in suspense, and it has been turned into a 2-year bill. So right now, like I said, we're still monitoring canines, still monitoring a slew of the zoning type bills, and still monitoring AB 1748. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have on anything we've discussed previously or anything for this evening.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn?
Yes, quick question. So in your comment, when you say semi-truck, are you referring to the diesel semi-trucks? Is it
Yes,
that one?
It is, yes, the
Okay,
diesel
and that's the
semi-trucks.
Riverside County area, right, or the Inland Empire?
Well, no,
specific?
this bill was more generally written. This is not the Ramos bill. This was a separate bill that was proposed, may have been Jackson that proposed this one as well, that said semi-trucks would be not allowed to drive through any area that's considered a disadvantaged community.
Okay, so was it, so again,
And that one
again,
is-
specific to diesel trucks or just semi-trucks in general?
Well, I'm
Or do you not?
assuming semi-trucks is the way it was written, and that's the way it
Okay.
seemed to be targeted. I'd have to look, but at this point, it's sort
Okay.
of moot
Yeah,
until
that's true.
January anyway. We'll see
Okay,
if it
all right.
comes back to life.
Thank you.
And you said canine was being monitored, so, right?
Yes, sir. We'll know more by the end of this week on that bill.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, thank you for that. Brings us to item I, EDC.
So there is no Economic Development Committee meeting this month. In lieu of that, on Thursday evening, the city is hosting a downtown business workshop that is designed for the residents, business owners, and property owners in the downtown area. This is the first workshop that's part of the Downtown Beaumont Revitalization Plan. So some of you were able to attend the last downtown business meeting we had back in April, and the consultant GHD, who is facilitating the revitalization plan, was present there and talked to a lot of the business owners and the property owners and people that were there. They will be back formally to host the workshop, so it will be interactive. It is here at the city Thursday at 6 p.m. There'll be tables set up, there'll be a lot of information gathering, there'll be opportunities for participants to look at different possibilities for what downtown may look like from a streetscape standpoint, how we can do things with traffic, and also an opportunity just to gather more information from the public, from the business community and the residences in the area. And we'll have, snacks and whatnot for the participants as well, because, it always helps get through something like that if you feed them. But I believe, talking to Economic Development Manager Worsinski today, we have somewhere close to 40 RSVPs for the meeting, so we're very excited. And at the next council meeting, staff will be able to report out for you what we had at the workshop. And that concludes my report this evening.
Thank you for that. Item J, City Treasurer Report. Absent today. K, City Clerk.
Yep, we're good, thank you.
All right, thank you for that. City Attorney, item L.
And I gave my report for the month of May at the last meeting.
Thank you. Item M, City Manager Report.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I go through the items that are on the agenda, I wanted to make a few announcements to let council and the community know that all but 2 fields at the sports park are going to be closed until August 15th. We're doing turf planing. We're trying to keep those fields in as best shape as we can, and so therefore that requires that we close them so that we can do the needed maintenance. There will be no lights available at the sports park, and so Doug is working with the sports leagues. He had a meeting this afternoon with them. He's working with them to relocate them to other parks. We appreciate their patience and support while we do this maintenance. The citywide annual employee appreciation luncheon is tomorrow. And then Thursday evening at 6:30 is the police department's annual awards ceremony. And so I look forward to seeing you all there.
That's 6:30, right? At the
6:30
school
on
district?
Thursday, correct.
Okay.
Included in your packet and at the request of council are the fire status reports, and Chief will come up in a minute. He can give the police department reports. You're also included in your packet is the fourth quarter 2022 sales tax report, and that outlines your top 25 producers in alphabetical order, as well as comparison to fourth quarter 2021. It's relatively flat. There was a minor increase, but nothing significant. And then I'm also pretty pleased to announce a new program that we're starting as part of the City Council's strategic plan. We are going to have 4 Government in the Park days. It will be the 4th Saturday of every month, and we will be moving around the city. June 24th at DeForge Park, July 22nd Wildflower Park, August 26th Fallen Heroes Park, and September 23rd Palmer Park. And what this is a mobile government. Not all residents are able to come to City Hall or have the time to speak with staff and elected officials during their work week, Monday through Friday. And so we're giving the public the opportunity to come out, talk to us. Departments will be represented. We look forward to City Council being there, and it's just really a way for us to engage the public in their areas on a Saturday morning. So it'll be a couple hours those Saturday mornings, and we're pretty excited about it because it was an idea that came out of the strategic planning workshop. So, Chief, did you want to go over your stats?
Evening, Mayor and Council. So before you are the statistics for the Beaumont Police Department through the month of April of 2023. And in your, also in your column is the year-to-date. So you'll be able to compare March to April, and then year-to-date of April of 2022 to April of 2023. So before you are those statistics, and if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them for you.
Yes, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Chief, what's a 1021?
So a 1021 is a phone call. So for example, are you looking at the number 3 call for service in April?
Yeah.
So the request for information, what that means is that the person called the police department to speak to an officer. They didn't physically drive to our lobby.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other for Chief? Appreciate this, Chief. It really helps. Transparency, good. Are you satisfied with your request for that? Awesome, great job.
Thank you, Mayor, and again, thank you for the proclamation on behalf of you and council.
Well deserved, thank you.
Thank you.
And then, Mayor, if I may just take a few minutes to go through some updates on the future agenda items so council knows what's coming forward. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but just the ones that are coming up here pretty quickly. Short-term rentals, there will be a discussion June 20th. We will revisit the sign ordinance based on council's comments at the last discussion, and that will be July 18th.
When was the rentals?
June 20th. The processing fee waivers at a staff level is coming likely June 20th. The report of the warehouse employment, sales, tax revenue, and status updates was handed out to council tonight. And then finally, the assessment for the need for additional community centers. We're working with the consultant on the park master plan to include that, so that's going to be a long-term item, not something that we can immediately respond to. Council, however, we will give updates on that as we move through that study. And that's all I have for now, Mayor.
I'm glad to see that's a part of that plan. It was piggyback on, was that something allowed to be put on? Because I don't think that was in the original scope of the plan, was it?
It will be discussed with the consultant.
Okay, good. I'm pretty confident that'll work out. And like, thank you for these park, Govern the Park. You know, I've been trying to go out and get to the public, and it's like, God, how am I gonna arrange that? And I wanna have staff, have to, do things for me and stuff. So this is perfect, and I encourage those that can make it.
And we're gonna have food and games, so the parents can bring their kids, and
Right.
Parks and Rec staff will entertain the kids, so parents can have discussions.
And for Mr. Peony, if there's more than 3 of us, we'll just have different corners of the park. How about that? All right, he
And
said good.
quick question on that. Can we ask staff to send reminders out week of for council? Thank you.
Is putting it on your calendar sufficient, or text
I have-
message?
It will help. Because Saturday's a work day for me is why.
Okay.
So I'm oddball out, I think, on that one, so.
This is your future mayor, so you're gonna see how he wants things special. Excuse me, I can't make myself laugh. Okay, so you covered N. Is there any thing from council wants to add to item N, which is the future agenda items? Seeing none, that'll take us to O for reports. Councilmember Voigt, would you go first today?
Sure, absolutely. I attended the collaborative meeting on May 3rd. It was an excellent meeting. Calamasa was there as well, so I really appreciate their participation in our collaboration, along with the water districts, Beaumont, Cherry Valley Parks, and really just and the school district. So I appreciate that meeting. I definitely feel like there is continued discussion on collaboration in the Pass area, and there was some great information shared across the way. And then on the following Wednesday, I did attend Beaumont Cherry Valley Parks District meeting as well. They are very thankful to the council as well as city staff for just continued collaboration and participation with one another. So as we're moving forward with our strategic goals, I think that we're accomplishing some of that collaboration there. So thank you guys for allowing me to attend those meetings.
Excellent, thank you. Councilmember Lara?
Nothing to report.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn?
Yes, thank you. I just have a short report. On the 4th of May, I attended the Transportation Now meeting, and on the 9th of May, I attended the PASCON meeting. And with both of those, I gave a detailed report for the Sacramento and DC trips to those two organizations. So that was very helpful to them to know what the city plans are. And also at the PASCON meeting, city manager for Banning, Doug Schultz, gave an update in terms of some of their projects and so forth, and had mentioned they were able to secure some more funding for their Sun Lakes Boulevard extension and some progress that way too. So that's all I have for the evening.
Thank you. Just shortly, I attended the SCAG conference, General Assembly. That was really good, and we had great networking and had affordable housing seminars and so forth, and I did meet some people from Orange County and from the low desert about fire, and talked about fire issues and trucks and stuff, so it was interesting to hear perspectives around and to see what other people are doing. Excuse me. Attended a roundtable discussion with Congressman Ruiz. He had some congressmen come down that were discussing tribal needs up in Morongo, and he invited me down to that, so we had some good comments and discussion with other Congress from New Mexico and from Arizona, and one from Alaska came down. So that was very interesting time to meet some of the other Congress and talk about some local issues that they wanted to hear about. And the Youth Council, we already reported on that, but again, they're very excited, even though it's the end of the year, they're really looking forward to next year. And one of their main goals is to try to increase participation. So that's why she mentioned about the application period being open very soon through August, so that, and we can get maximum. And we're also moving it to 10th grade, so we'll have a 10th and 11th and 12th grade opportunities. And I've had a few people email me from the Glenview High School as well. So we'll be reaching out to other youth in the district as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how things move and and progress through that. All right, so with that, remember, we're not closing, we're going into closed session. So as we move on, a little different today, but item P shows public comments regarding closed session. So do we have any comments on closed session items?
I have no written comments. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
All right, City Attorney Pinckney, can you read the items that we'll be discussing in closed session?
Yes, item P1 is conference with legal counsel regarding potential initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4. Item P2 is conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation that involves Paula Ann Wright versus City of Beaumont. Item P3 is also existing litigation, Juan Cesares versus the City of Beaumont. Item P4, also existing litigation, Carolyn DeReich versus City of Beaumont. And P5 is conference with real property negotiator. The property is 515-516 California Avenue, APN 418-091-012. And the City of Beaumont is a potential purchaser, and PRRO as a potential seller.
Okay, and with that, then, we'll be adjourning to closed session at 8:19 PM. Okay, we're back from closed session. Mr. Pinckney, can I have a report out, please?
Yes, the council met in closed session. Item P1 was conference with legal counsel regarding potential initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4. There was no reportable action taken. Item P2, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation that involved the Paula Ann Wright versus City of Beaumont matter, and there was reportable action in that item. And there was a motion to file a cross-complaint against Tri-Point Homes. The first was made by Mayor Martinez, the second by Councilmember Lara, and the vote was Mayor Martinez in favor, Mayor Pro Tem Fenn in favor, Councilmember Lara in favor, and Councilmember Jessica Voigt in favor. Councilmember White was not in attendance. And then the council discussed item P3, conference regarding existing litigation. That matter involved Juan Cesares et al. Versus the City of Beaumont. There was reportable action on that. Again, it was a motion to file a cross-complaint against Tri-Point Homes. The first was made by Mayor Martinez and the second by Councilmember Lara. And the vote was Mayor Martinez in favor of filing the cross-complaint, Mayor Pro Tem Fenn in favor, Councilmember Voigt in favor, and Councilmember Lara in favor. And then the next item was P4, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, and that involved Carolyn DeReich versus the City of Beaumont. There was reportable action taken on that item. There was a motion to continue defending the case. That was, the first was by Councilmember Lara, the second was by Mayor Pro Tem Fenn, and the vote in favor was Mayor Martinez in favor, Mayor Pro Tem Fenn in favor, Councilmember Voigt in favor, and Councilmember Lara in favor. The next item was P5, conference with real property negotiators involving the property at 515-516 California Avenue, and there was no reportable action taken on that item, and that concludes the report out.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pinckney, and with that, we will adjourn at 9:35 PM.